Greetings from sunny Sydney. Hello, I'm Doug McCartney and I'm here today to read you a letter. Well, doesn't that sound thrilling? But this is a very important letter. You're probably aware, you must have seen it in the news or heard it or read it or something, that Australia has a problem with the Catholic Church, as just about everywhere else in the world does. In particular here in Australia we have a problem with a Cardinal George Pell, who has just recently been found guilty of sexual molestation of children, choir boys. He's in prison at the moment awaiting his sentence. Now George Pell's counsel said that this is no big deal, you know, it was just a case of, what did he call it, vanilla sex. One man inserting his penis into a child's mouth. Just vanilla sex, no big deal. And to me that's the most extraordinary statement I've ever heard a barrister make. But doesn't it just show you just the attitude towards sexual molestation? It's just no big deal. It's just vanilla sex, you know, one out forcing a child to suck his dick. No big deal. What? Give me a break. Anyway, since then, George Pell's counsel, whose name I've forgotten, he's resigned. He's chucked in the towel. And I don't blame him. He should go away and hang his head in shame. In this country, we also are blessed with a broadcaster called Andrew Bolt. Now, Andrew Bolt can be quite interesting sometimes, but he doesn't research his topics very well. And he's made up his mind that the jury got it all wrong. He wasn't there, he didn't hear a word the jury said, but Andrew Bolt has decided the jury got it all wrong. And he's challenged the verdict. The letter that I'd like to read to you is from the wife of a man who was abused by, I don't know, priest or one priest, I don't know the whole story. And she challenges Andrew Bolt's assertions. So if you're in the least bit interested in this sort of subject, Catholic child abuse, child molestation, then it's a 15-minute, I'm warning you now, it's a 15-minute video, 16 minutes or something. So you'll need a bit of patience. Stick with it, I think you'll find it very interesting. Okay, here I go. Dear Mr. Bolt, my name is Claire Linnane. As you know, I am a Ballarat local who has been living with the aftermath of child abuse for many years. My husband, Peter Blencaron, is a survivor of clergy abuse at 11 years old. You met him whilst in Rome 3 years ago. I am compelled to write to you after you expressed your opinion that George Pell had been falsely convicted. 27th and 28th of February, Herald Sun. You are entitled to your opinion. What concerns me is your statement that your opinion is based on overwhelming evidence. She's put that in inverted commas. I believe this is misleading, irresponsible and ignorant. Your lack of genuine insight into the issue of sexual child abuse makes a mockery of survivors and all they have endured. The overwhelming evidence you mention includes some of the following points, asterisk, which I would like to respond to in an attempt to help educate you about this issue. One of the boys, now dead, denied he had been abused. To provide context for readers, when the mother of the now deceased victim asked him more than once if he had been sexually assaulted, he denied it. Scroll up a bit. Among survivors of clergy and non-clergy childhood sexual abuse, it is common for them to deny the abuse occurred. As vulnerable children, they are incredibly embarrassed, confused and ashamed. They do not understand what has happened to them, and their shame is magnified by the revered status of their abuser. According to the rigorous report for the Royal Commission into the Impact of Delayed Reporting on the Prosecution and Outcomes of Child Sexual Abuse Cases, it's a bit of a mouthful, children have also been found to be less likely to disclose, the more likely to delay, and more likely to delay if the perpetrator is a parent or parent figure, or a person in a position of trust and authority. I asked my own husband about this. Although brother Edward Dowling had molested and raped him in 1974, when his parents asked him in 1975 if anything had happened to him, his response was to vehemently deny it. He states, you deny it because you don't want them to feel guilty. You don't want them to carry the guilt of having sent you to this wonderful school within their wonderful church only for you to be abused. So you just deny it to protect them. We interrupt this program. I have to. I just can't help it. I have to show you, demonstrate what a total idiot Andrew Bolt is. If you seriously believe that teenage boys go rushing off to their parents the moment they've been sexually abused, you're an idiot, an absolute fool. I was molested by my cupmaster when I was about, 8 years old, something like that. To this day, well, my mother's dead now, and my father was unfortunate enough to get in the way of a German bullet. But my mother died never ever having heard of this incident. That's pretty standard. You keep it to yourself because you're so embarrassed. So if you're saying that these two choir boys who were molested by George Pell must be lying because they didn't report it immediately or within a month or two or a few years, then Andrew, you are a complete fucking idiot, a complete moron, a total dickhead, as thick as two short planks. You need to do just a little bit of research. The piece of important evidence you do fail to point out is that the deceased victim began using heroin at the age of 14, after enduring the abuse at 13. He abandoned a scholarship at St. Kevin's, spiraled into drug abuse and died of a heroin overdose at 30. This pathway is sadly all too common for sexual abuse victims. Asterisk. The other alleged victim, whose identity and testimony remain secret, didn't speak of it for many years. According to the same report, boys and adolescent males are less likely than their female counterparts to disclose child sexual abuse at the time of the abuse. When they do disclose, they take longer to do so. For example, in a 2008 study, for nearly half the men, 45%, it took at least 20 years for them to discuss their abuse. Additionally, the Royal Commission into Institutional Responses to Child Abuse final report 2017 found that the average time it took for men to disclose was 25.7 years. The surviving choir boy disclosed 19 years after his abuse, earlier than average. The other choir boy died 18 years after his abuse, so it was well inside the average. Given this evidence, the fact that one of the complainants didn't speak of his abuse for many years is, it would seem, indicative of a genuine abuse survivor, not a reason to doubt, as you imply. Asterisk. It allegedly happened in the sacristy, normally a very busy room. A sacristy, I don't really know what that is, but it's obviously a room within the church. You state in your article that you are not a Catholic. I'm curious to know why you believe the sacristy is normally a very busy room. I was raised a Catholic and have asked my extensive network of Catholic friends and family about sacristy. I'm yet to find one who tells me the sacristy was or is normally very busy. The adjectives used have included quiet, weird, uncomfortable, scary, silent, solemn. Asterisk. Where Pell would have known people were almost certain to walk in. The prospect of discovery did not deter clergy abusers. Children were raped with their parents in the next room. In St. Alipius, Ballarat, one child I know of was physically carried away from the playground by Ridsdale. Ridsdale was a notorious paedophile priest. He went to prison for a long time for abusing dozens of boys. That's my bit, I've inserted that.
Lyndon and Damien went to primary school at Ballarat's epicentre of abuse, St. Alipius, where a ring of pedophile Christian brothers and a priest abused dozens of children. George Pell lived in the St. Alipius Presbytery at the same time as the notorious child abuser, Father Gerald Ridsdale. Both Lyndon and Damien told police they were also abused by teachers at the school. Lyndon's brother was one of many St. Alipius pupils who later suicided.
The prospect of discovery did not deter clergy abusers. Children were raped with their parents in the next room. In St. Alipius, Ballarat, one child I know of was physically carried away from the playground by Ridsdale and Best, screaming for his life in front of the other children. At St. Patrick's College, boys were physically punished at the back of the classroom, then molested while the rest of the class faced forward. To use your words, at any stage, all these abusers would have known people were almost certain to walk in. And yet they proceeded. Their revered status as next to God and their knowledge that the organisation for which they worked was not about to hold them accountable meant the risk of discovery was not a deterrent. Asterisk. There is no history or pattern of similar abuse by Pell, unlike with real church paedophiles. Well, she said pedophiles. I'm sure it's paedophiles, but we'll go with pedophiles because that's what she's written. unlike with real church pedophiles such as Gerard Ridsdale. This point is totally irrelevant to Pell's guilt or otherwise. Sexual abuse of children is a crime. You don't have to do it at least 60 to 65 children like Ridsdale, just the once. Furthermore, it is incorrect. There is a pattern in the allegations about Pell. The 5th count relates to Pell pushing one of the choir boys and grabbing his genitals. The Southwell inquiry in 2002 saw a complainant making an allegation of Pell getting a good handful of his genitals in the water at Phillip Island. In that internal church inquiry, Justice Southwell found that he believed both the complainant and Pell. Similar claims were made by the Eureka Pool complainants, one of whom died, another of whom was to be the complainant in the so-called swimming pool trial. That trial was dropped because of the evidence of another complainant was ruled inadmissible. The judge did not rule out the evidence of the complainant who made the grabbing allegations. Asterisk. The man I know seems not just incapable of such abuse, but so intelligent and cautious that he would never risk his brilliant career or good name on such a mad assault in such a public place. Response. I've never met George Pell, so I cannot give a personal opinion of what he is capable of. Even if I could, it would be totally irrelevant to his likely guilt or innocence, and would most certainly not be overwhelming evidence. Pedophiles can be otherwise lovely, intelligent, charismatic people. We know from history they include extremely successful politicians, celebrities, judges, teachers, priests. They are from all walks of life and run the whole gamut from stupid to brilliant, charming to repulsive. Asterisk. Maybe they misremembered. Maybe they had the wrong guy. Response. Please spend some time listening to survivors recount their experiences. You'll notice that whilst they might be blurry with exact dates and times, the details of the perpetrator they sadly cannot get out of their head. My husband struggles to wear aftershave because Dowland wore it while he abused him. He remembers looking at the shaving nicks on his abuser's neck as the molestation took place, and the scent of what came to be, to him, the sickening smell of cologne. Another survivor I know gets physically ill when someone smokes Alpine cigarettes around him, because one of the abusers smoked them. Furthermore, these boys were 13, not 3. Their brain development at that age makes them well and truly capable of facial recognition. George Pell has always had a very distinctive physical presence and had been Archbishop for several months at the time. He was extremely well known, not just in the cathedral, but also in the media and society more generally. The victim in this case is unlikely to have mixed Pell up with another 6 4 inch Archbishop. Asterisk. I would and did read the transcripts of the trial. Response. No, Andrew, you may have read a partial transcript. The full transcript is not available to you or any of us. Only the survivor, the police, the lawyers, the judge, the jury and Pell have heard all the evidence. So please stop implying that you know all the facts. You do not, nor do I. Asterisk. Could this attack have happened when not a single witness corroborated a single one of the accuser's claims? Response. Yes, it could. I am yet to meet a survivor who had a witness to the crime committed against him, and yet these crimes occurred. To conclude, Andrew, I reiterate that you are certainly entitled to your opinion. But please don't make the irresponsible claim that it is based on overwhelming evidence. This week I've been asked my opinion many, many times. My response? Any opinion I have is irrelevant and ill-informed because I am not privy to all the facts of the case. This is the writer speaking there. How about everyone stops trying to convince people of Pell's innocence or guilt? It is not the most important issue here. I would have thought it was. We have hundreds, potentially thousands of survivors throughout Australia who have not yet come forward. And when the likes of yourself and other commentators use your public profile to cast doubt over the outcome of a trial, you make these people even less likely to come forward and get the assistance they so desperately need. I see where she's coming from now. If you want to support Pell, go and visit him in jail. Help fund his appeal. Take Miranda Devine with you. She's another one who is cast doubt on Pell's verdict. In the meantime, here in Ballarat, we are going to continue to try to deal with the fact that our suicide rate among males is twice that of Melbourne and 65% greater than the Victorian average. We are going to keep helping women, children, mothers, fathers and siblings pick up the pieces as their husbands, fathers, sons and brothers prematurely end their lives. We are going to keep lobbying for the redress scheme that the Royal Commission recommended, so that our survivors get the practical and emotional assistance they need. We are going to keep trying to figure out how to reverse what has now become a cultural problem whereby males in our community resort to suicide instead of seeking help. Wouldn't you just know it? The SD card, or whatever it's called, ran out, expired, whatever, halfway through the very last line. 15 plus minutes of recording and it got to there. Not enough room left to record that bit. Unbelievable. I'll scroll up a few lines and I'll read the last bit again. We are going to keep helping women, children, mothers, fathers and siblings pick up the pieces as their husbands, fathers, sons and brothers prematurely end their lives. We are going to keep lobbying for the redress scheme that the Royal Commission recommended, so that our survivors get the practical and emotional assistance they need. We are going to keep trying to figure out how to reverse what has now become a cultural problem whereby males in our community resort to suicide instead of seeking help. Honestly, the fact that our most senior Catholic has been jailed is the least of our worries right now. That's a pretty powerful letter, I'm sure you'll agree.